Hi, and welcome to the first episode of the Stitch in Time podcast. I am Hunter Burdett. I am joined here by Jordan Thompson. Today, we're going to be talking about how everything is becoming political and this new project coming out this year called the Articles of Unity, or the Unity 2020 project. So, as we dive into it, how are you doing today, Jordan?
Doing good, Hunter. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. So I wanted to bring up, you had mentioned when we were having some conversations before about this idea called the politics of things or something, but it was essentially this idea and how politics has touched every aspect of our lives, and it has infected almost every aspect of our lives out there, whether it be from things we experience at home to the people we interact with. It seems like it's everywhere. Do you want to elaborate more on what you were talking about with that?
Yeah. Yes. Yep. So there in in the IT world, there's a term called the Internet of Things, and it's just how everything nowadays is getting internet put into it. So you've got smart TVs that started it, smartphones, but now you have smart microwaves, smart fridges. There's even a casino in Las Vegas that has a smart aquarium heater. Um, so
Aquarium heater, how does that work?
I'm not even sure. I just know that it got hacked, and that's how the hackers got into the system is through the smart aquarium heater. So anyway, I kind of took that phrase and I changed it up to the politics of things and how every little instance, no matter what it is, good or bad, has some type of political spin to it now. You can't do anything without politics being thrown in there. So that's the phrase that I said. I'm sure I'm not the only one that says that kind of thing, or has used that phrase before. But that's the politics of things.
Yeah, it really has infected everything. Just to name a few examples, of course, social media is like the primary one that comes to mind with Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Most of the posts I see on there nowadays just always reference something political and make you take one side or the other type of thing. I've seen it take over the business world. A bunch of different companies seem to be incorporating it more into their marketing and their ways of, selling to the public. Have to attach some sort of political ideology to it. The world of sports and entertainment. This comes with, the different athletes you see, the celebrities you see, and movies and TV and the shows. Seems like there's a message attached to all of these different things. Even different religious organizations and groups, you have, churches always having to take a stance on something like this. It's really expanded into every aspect of our lives from what I can see.
Right. And I want to be clear. It's one thing to feel dedicated to something, and want to stand for it, want to kneel for it, want to do whatever, protest for it. Um, but it's got to be in the right sense. It's got to be in the right light. And I don't know. It seems like it's just political stunts.
It's
Or
like wanting publicity.
yeah. If you truly want to change, you're not going to make a huge fuss over the issue. You're going to try to implement changes, and that's what I think the biggest part about this politics of things is just let's just make a big deal of things, but let's not actually change things.
So it seems like to me that the biggest area that it's taken over and that's caused the most problems is in the hearts and minds of the people. And that's why it is in these different, institutions in these places, is because people are adhering to this. It's almost like there's a sense that they're drawn to this conflict of being on one side or the other. And I wanted to kind of transition and we talked about its reach, but like the severity of it and the kind of consequences from us putting politics into every single aspect of our lives and the issues that could come out of it, and what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said before, it has literally touched everything, and I think a big part about it is going to be these. Think of the kids that are growing up today, right? Take a child who's maybe 10, 11. They're just kind of understanding what the world is, and they're hearing things on TV. They're hearing things from their parents. They're hearing things from their schools, which a lot of that probably doesn't line up for them, right? So if you have, for instance, a school institution that's teaching, something like the 1619 project that is, highly controversial, and there's a lot of facts in it that don't really line up, and so much controversy to it, that this kid learns that in school. He goes home, his parents are watching some news source that's talking about how this is wrong, and now this child is growing up thinking my school's teaching me one thing but my home is teaching me another. How does that line up? So I think that is going to be a big part of these kids' lives when they grow up. It's going to be super confusing to figure out which way is up.
Yeah, I think that's pretty dangerous because it kind of leads to that confirmation that you're right and the other person is wrong, and it teaches that idea at a young age to these kids that may be seeing this in their parents. Because what do they see their parents do? They see their parents interacting, and if their parents are some of these people we're referring to, they go out there and it's always a fight about politics and political things. So you hear your parent talk nonstop every day about how bad and terrible Trump is, and then if some other little kid is at school there and their parents like Trump and they bring it up, the kid thinks they're an evil, terrible, awful person, and you have little children hating each other, or people growing up thinking that people who disagree with them are wrong and should be hated, and it just creates this divisive nature, which is why it's interesting to look at this unity project. It's meant to bring people together rather than divide them and split them apart.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, like, that's we can talk about video game culture and how toxic it is, right? And the issue is, if they're learning the same kind of thing in real life, it's going to be a toxic world. Video games is one thing, but when you bring that toxicity into the real world, and you're seeing, oh, it's okay for my parents just to spew hatred at this one person because they don't agree with their political view, then you're going to have the child growing up in the same manner, and it's just going to get worse. So there's no real, hey, let's work together. Let's try to find a solution. Again, touching on we just want to bring up, well, that's not what I believe, so that's, forget that, or, it's whatever.
So I just wanted to go a little bit more in depth on some of those areas, like that politics has affected, like how severe it has become in those areas. For instance, like I said, with the businesses and stuff with their marketing, it is now to the point where people will refuse to go to a restaurant or buy a certain brand of food or clothing item or something because the person who is like the head of that organization doesn't support the same political beliefs they do. Or we're to the point where with sports, for instance, you have an athlete has to represent all the same political views you have, or you don't like them anymore, or a team. Same thing with movies and TV, and I've noticed this a lot too. Like I said, there were movies and TV that are meant to push forward a certain point of view, like a documentary or something like that, but there's still some stuff that was just meant for pure entertainment purposes. And we're getting to the point where you can't even have that anymore without something being wedged in there and shoved in there that's supposed to make you feel one way or another about some political ideology. And when I see these kind of things in these areas, it seems like it's meant to draw one of two responses. And there's like two outcomes you can have from it. Maybe three if you're just indifferent, don't pay attention. But if you agree with the ideology that's being put forth in a movie, a TV show, or from some athlete, you're getting this confirmation that you are right, and it's validating your beliefs. And you watch that stuff on a regular basis, and if it's constantly aligning with what you think, you get this feeling and sense that you are in the right with your belief system, not because you saw it somewhere that you thought about it and processed it and it educated you on the issue, but because it just had the same opinion as you and it validates your beliefs. On the flip side, you have, if you disagree with the ideology in any of these areas, it can just set you up and make you angry and feel like you're being preached at all the time. But both of these seem to cause division and don't really cause people to unify over issues, I think is where I'm going with this, because it's set up in a fashion to either confirm or make angry, not to, bridge any gaps. Or what about all those people in between? It's like you're one or the other, and we're going to divide you and split you into your two corners. So I think that is the problem with how severe it has become.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we see that divide now. I mean, we've got that team mentality, team culture, where it's just straight up my team against your team. It's a. Why is politics viewed as a sport, right? Why is it my team has to win? No matter what, my team has to win. Their team has to lose. Like that, just when you're trying to run a country and you have, two main parties that are just, we're going to do whatever it takes to win, instead of we're going to do whatever it takes to make this nation, great, or whatever you want to say. Just people working together, but you just don't see that in politics at all. I mean, look at the stimulus check that they were going to pass just recently, the second one. The House, I think, downvoted it, and so Trump decided, hey, I'm going to make this deferment of certain taxes, and even in that, like, you might say, oh, that's great, I can't wait for that, but he's taking it and he said it's just deferred. It's not, we don't have to pay for it. And then he said, if I get reelected, I'll make sure that you don't pay for that. So there it is again, that it's, my team is going to win no matter what. People's livelihoods are at stake right now with this whole COVID-19 world. You got people struggling to pay rent, people struggling to buy food for their kids. I mean, it's awful. And to have a political stunt here thrown in your face again of, if you elect me again, is how you'll get free money. I don't know. It's a lot.
I want to go back to what you said right there about like the sports and people choosing teams. So I think it's a very good analogy. It's a good representation of how things are. The people are treating their political parties like sports teams, and the similarities go very deep, I think. So if you think about a hardcore fan that's always behind their team, you go to a game. Granted, there might be some out there that can acknowledge when their team is doing wrong and when their team hasn't done well. But a lot of times, problems that occur during a game, the fans of one side will always blame either the ref or the other team, whether it's a play that didn't go their way, something they think was a bad call, or the other team playing dirty, whatever it may be. It's often the other team's fault and they're in the wrong. And you see this too with people in their political parties. It's like people can't accept blame. There's this pride there that stops them from admitting where they've gone wrong and where the fault is. And people don't want to acknowledge when and where they have gone wrong. So they buckle down and they stick to their team. Now in the sporting world, not really any repercussions to this, You feel bad, your team sucks, they lose, whatever. But when you do this with politics, that's a little bit more, it's a more of a dangerous situation. You are, putting people's livelihoods on the line here. And what determines, how our life is going to be in this country is, the decisions that are made. And you want to be, electing and voting for the people that are going to best help you pursue that and best help you pursue a life worth living in this country. So if you've got a team that really, really, really sucks, or they're making a lot of bad decisions, you should be looking at that and going, okay, we're really messing up here. Something needs to be done. There needs to be a change. But that's not what's happening. People are ignoring, the repercussions that come from this and saying, well, no, they're treating it like a sport and saying, this is my team. I'm sticking with them no matter what. I'm going to buckle down, hold down to my team, not leaving. And it's scary. It's a scary place to be.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, again, just how crazy this all is. You have doctors literally coming into patients saying, hey, you've tested positive for COVID. What's your political stance? Well, why does that matter? Well, we've seen some positivity coming from hydrochloroquine, but depending on which way you lean, I'm not going to tell you to take it, or I will tell you to take it. Like that's absurd. Like why are
It's
we?
insane.
Like yeah, why are we looking at politics for our best chance to survive a pandemic, right? Like an illness, a virus. Hey, we've seen some good outcomes when we use this. You want to try it? Well, no, because Trump said so. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, it's like this such an adherence to like your side's beliefs that you'll expel any reason that one would normally have in a situation because of fear, and you're afraid because you think the other side is, evil and out to get you. And it's just this idea, the other side's always wrong. I'm scared of it and I'm afraid of it. I don't want it.
Yeah, and I mean, even you can take that into what's been happening recently with brands changing their logos. It's straight up cancel culture, which is a whole nother subject. But that touches in on just how divided we really are.
Yeah, we're just so divided, and that kind of ties into what I want to talk about next with regards to our leadership and the leadership of the two political parties we have, and that's going to kind of lead us into talking about this Unity 2020 initiative, this idea of there's another option maybe. But before we get to that, I want to talk about, the options we have ahead of us and the two parties and their leadership and the extent to which they are divisive and create division among us.
Yeah, I honestly think November 2020 can't come soon enough. To the fact that we're so divided, we have Joe Biden or Donald Trump to choose from, and that's the biggest problem with this whole two-party system that we're running. You have a binary option, that's you choose this or you choose this, and that's all you get, right? Excuse me. And it's just again, like how do we get to this point where we have to choose the lesser of evils, right?
Yeah, I see the problems with both groups, and I think they're divisive in different ways potentially. I feel like I can see it more. I have an issue more with one side than the other, but in the end, I can see where they're coming from with this project, with not wanting either Biden or Trump in office. I mean, let's start with Biden. On the one hand, a lot of people don't think he's a capable leader, and he's not going to be able to perform the job of the presidency. And there's a lot of things about him, that are going to turn conservatives off, and he's going to create a lot of division there. It's always attacking Trump. It seems like, though, the center of this divisiveness is Trump, and that's not me necessarily bashing him as the president. So I want to clarify, like, I think that he is the center of the divisiveness, in that you either really hate him or you really love him, and you're outspoken about it on either side. And then you have all these people in the middle who are trying to think rationally. I like him on this, I dislike him on this. But the people that are reacting emotionally are the ones we're hearing and are really loud in showing the signs of divisiveness, and that you have the people who would be considered maybe voting for Biden or far left or whatever, that hate Trump with every fiber of their being. And Trump knows this, and he plays into this and stirs it. And you can see that in the way he responds to them and the way he handles himself and behaves himself. And you can make the argument, well, yeah, you shouldn't get torn up or stirred up over things. Okay, me personally, nothing he really says is probably going to get me worked up or agitated, because I don't really care when people try to stir the pot like that. But there are many people in the country who are going to get agitated by that. So in that way, he is divisive, yes. And then on the other side, he does this thing where he pokes and makes fun at how stupid a lot of the things, the people on the far left may be doing, and which is true, but does it in a manner like to his base and his audience that gets them riled up and excited to make fun of that other side. And it just creates a big pool of division because one side is laughing and mocking the other side. The other side's not going to want to come over and join you if you're making fun of them and thinking they're stupid. As true as it may be, it doesn't mean that that's not a way to win friends over and influence people, right? So in those regards, I think, yes, he is a divisive candidate, and that's where I struggle. A lot of people might, be looking to get him out of office because of other reasons, like they say he is an absolute racist, or, he only cares about the rich, not the poor, whatever it may be. They're saying that he's an awful person. That, to me, isn't the reason this project is wanting to get him out. The way I understand it is, it's just he's too divisive, and it's too much of a show, and we need someone more, secure in that position.
Yeah. I think with Trump, my biggest concern is, you hit it right, the nail on the head. It's just I think it's everything he does. I mean, if you look at his past, the TV shows he was involved with, his dealings of, his his real estate empire, it just seems like he's going to try to do whatever it takes to win. And he's got to win. It's like a mentality. And, that's a winner's mentality. It's definitely there. But the lengths of which someone will go to win has to be held in balance. Like, you can't just do anything to win. And I see a lot of that, decisiveness. I'm still going to draw the line. It's them versus me, and I'm going to try to get as many people on the me team as possible. And it's not good. It's just not good.
And, I can even feel myself being a little bit hesitant throughout, just due to that somewhat of an underlying fear, because I absolutely know and have experienced people on the far left, if I don't condemn everything Trump does, if I support anything in any aspect, I'm labeled a racist, awful, terrible Nazi person. But also, now, like, looking at this project, there are going to be things where I disagree with Trump as well. And again, I would choose him over Biden. But if we're presented with more choices, I'm going to look to maybe choose someone other than Trump as well with this thing moving forward. And that also now creates something I haven't had before, or as much before. It's going to create a lot of people who are the, always Trumpers on the right getting mad at me. So you're going to have people on the far left and the far right that are angry at you right there in the middle, where maybe a lot of America's at. And it's kind of a scary place, because a lot of these people can be very extreme in the way they attack you and whatnot. Just a little bit scary, and sometimes makes you hesitate a bit.
Oh yeah. Well, see, what I feel bad for, there's a lot, but one of the things is, if you're conservative and you're in college, you almost have no chance of saying what you believe politically. Because the moment you speak out in the academic world of, college, you will get shut down. Excuse me. I've got friend after friend who, say, hey, when I'm writing a paper, in a poli-sci class, or, in any kind of class, if politics get brought up, I can't be truthful on this because I want an A. I want a good grade, and I'm afraid that if I say anything, any kind of positivity towards, Trump or his administration at all, I'm just going to get backlash for it, and it's just not worth it. And that's the thing, like, I voted for Trump. Does that mean I support every personal decision he's made? No, not at all. Does that mean that I really like the guy? No, not at all. That just means when it came down to it, of, the 2016 election, I was deciding on policy and what I thought was best. And again, here we have 2020. Are we going to elect the guy who has been in office for 4 years, who's been doing, some good that I agree I would say for myself, in my opinion. But, are we going to vote for that? Or are we going to vote for someone who clearly is just not mentally there? And if it's the idea of, well, he's got his name recognition, so we'll try to sneak somebody in on the ticket. Then why aren't we just voting for the person that they're going to put on the ticket, right? Why are we not? Why put him up there just because of the name recognition? And there again, you have the my team, your team. We're going to put him up there because people know him, and that's our team. He was with Obama, and that sort of thing. And I just have a hard time. Both parties have a hard time saying we're gonna send Trump, we're gonna send Biden. How can you justify that that's good for the country? Like, it's just I just yeah. In my opinion, I just don't think it is.
Yeah, and I caught something you said I kind of want to touch on too before we continue and just bring it up because I think it's kind of important. You mentioned being a conservative, and it made me think about the terms, conservative and progressive. And think about it for a second, what we think of those terms and what they mean. A lot of times, if you are a conservative and you are talking about a progressive or you hear the term progressive, it's associated in a negative light, right? It's someone who is trying to radically change everything, your way of life and the way they're trying to change our country at its core. And usually you think of, stupidity and a lot of poor reasoning and all things like that. And then if you're a progressive and you talk about conservatives or you hear about conservatives, they're also in a negative light. You think, oh, wow, that's just someone who is, things are working out for them and they don't want things to change because, they're corrupt and they want to keep all the bad things that have held us back in the past and yada, yada, yada. But those aren't really the right ways to think of each other as conservatives and progressives because in reality, neither one is really good on its own. Because if you only had conservatives, you would be conserving all things that are good, but you would also be keeping every flawed and bad mechanism that you have that hurt people. So you would never make any progress. You would be stuck. You'd be stuck in the mud. Same with progressives. You can't only have progressives because if that was the case, you wouldn't have anyone pulling back on the reins saying, hold on a second, is that a good idea? Should we go there? And you would have people jumping into new idea after new idea without any regard for whether it was a good idea to pursue and if it was going to be dangerous. It was just, got to keep moving forward to something new. So that's why you need both. You have to have somebody saying, okay, this is what works. It's working well. We got to hold on to this. And if we're going to change it, maybe not change it full on, just, we really got to hold on to the core aspects of it. And we can't jump too far forward in things to where we're going to screw up the progress we've made so far. We got to hold on to these things. At the same time, you got to have that progressive there going, okay, but can we make it better? What can we change? I see that you want to hold on to that. That's good, but what can we change? We got to push forward. You have those two together in balance and, slow and steady, right? You have this well-working machine that pushes forward at the same time. It doesn't zoom off the cliff. So I think that's important to think about when we're viewing each other in this idea of unity, is that progressives and conservatives aren't, enemies of each other. They're teammates. They're on the same team working together.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like, we might even catch some backlash from me saying I'm a conservative, but this is the thing. If you want to call me a progressive conservative, because if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? But our political system is broke, so we need to implement some changes. I agree wholeheartedly. So
even if
yes,
it's not broke, you can still improve it.
Right, yeah, and so we've got to figure some things out. We've got to do some trial runs. And so do I think staying with where we're at right now is the best for the country? Absolutely not. But I'd like to see some changes? Absolutely. But just the fact of why can't we have a conversation of, hey, maybe I'm a conservative, or I lean more right, or I lean more left. Why do we have to automatically just, oh, that's the other team. Screw them. They're against me and I can't. It's even down to like friendships. How many times have you had someone say, oh, I can't be their friend because they don't think the same things I do politically? I mean, that's insane.
I actually saw they did like one of those out on the street videos where they went around and asked people, would you be friends with a Republican or would you be friends with a Democrat? And they had some that would say yes, but there were a lot that said absolutely not, just based on the fact that they had certain political beliefs. It was crazy.
Yeah, just the fact that anybody would say no. Oh, well, they think differently than me, so I can't be their friend. I mean, even just take that out. Like, I think maybe that's the bigger issue. Maybe we just can't be friends with someone who thinks differently than we can.
Well,
just
that's dangerous. Only being around people that think the same as you.
Well, yeah, and then you're just a bunch of groupthink, and you're not going to really do anything.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, exactly, and and divisive. That's the point of it. So, again, with where we're at right now, it's just sad. I think it's sad. In the year 2020, with a global pandemic, we can't even come together and figure out what's best for the country. Instead, we're too busy, in a pissing fight, just seeing, hey, who can, be the craziest. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. So now I think now would be a good time to kind of transition into talking about what Unity 2020 is, the Articles of Unity, or the Unity 2020 Initiative project, whatever you want to call it. And you might have gotten a sense of what it is throughout what we've been talking, but essentially we're looking at a third party ticket for the upcoming election, not Republican, not Democrat, a third ticket here that is, courageous. The people on it are courageous, patriotic, and looking to really, put the country's needs first. So I thought it would be good to kind of go through their website, and I will post a link to this stuff, but go through essentially what they lay out as the problem, and we can talk about that some as well. So they say that the problem is our government has been captured. After decades of neglect, our country is in crisis and cynicism dominates the public mind. Maybe you have felt this, maybe you are worried about your family's future, or maybe you are simply a concerned citizen witnessing recent events unfold and are troubled by what they seem to foreshadow. You're not alone. Our two dominant political parties are entirely consumed by partisan politics and are clearly uninterested in serious solutions to an ever-expanding list of problems they had a powerful hand in creating. More disturbingly, the tools we might use to remedy this situation, tools granted to us by our founding documents, appear to have been dulled to the point of uselessness by the major parties which, in those brilliant blueprints, were nowhere mentioned. As a nation, we are navigating uncharted territory. In addition to partisan gridlock, we must rise to several new challenges. We lack consensus, even about matters of basic fact, and the current tools to collective sense-making are unable to close the gap. Our country is on the brink of economic catastrophe, and we are hobbled by our dependence on outsourced manufacturing base. Massive protests reveal our depth and frustration, but these outpourings of genuine anger are all too easily co-opted, and attention is diverted away from root causes. While working-class Americans demonize each other, those who captured our system and hoarded opportunity continue to flourish at our expense. The world is losing confidence in America's capacity to lead. Even as Chinese geopolitical power expands, this could lead to catastrophic war in the absence of sober leadership. Each of these challenges is daunting. Taken together and mismanaged by our captured and dysfunctional government, the country finds itself in jeopardy. Divisive partisan politics has hobbled our nation and battled our better angels, just when we need the most. And so that's basically an overview of what the issue is and why this project was created. And a lot of in there is what we kind of have been talking about with regards to how divisive everything has become with this political system we have and the two parties and everything that goes along with that. But again, that is all we have just covered. And they go on to produce a little bit of data here that supports that statement. So they say, in the United States, more than 40% of the voters self-identify as independent, having already rejected the two major parties. If they had a ticket that spoke to their interests as American citizens, they would be the largest voting bloc in the country. Many citizens who have given up on voting would be likely to vote if they had reasons to do so. Only 17% of people trust the government to do what is right. Most of the time, congressional approval ratings have dropped to 25% at the time of this writing. 88% of Americans say that our current political leaders are not up to the challenge of addressing the crisis we face. 89% of voters say that political corruption is either a significant problem or crisis. We are starved for leadership. The parties have failed us. American public knows it, yet 84% of Americans still believe it's possible to improve the level of confidence we have in the government. There's hope. And that is, what you'd expect, I think. A lot of people just really aren't happy with how things are.
Yeah, I think that's pretty well known. I think it's hopefully there's like a overwhelming majority that is so fed up that this whole team mentality can be broken up, and that's what I'm really hoping for in this Unity 2020. I hope it's an answer to so many people's questions of what can be done.
Yeah, and I think this is one of those good answers potentially. So let's get into like the goals here. So the goal is to have a pair of candidates, two people, and one will be president, one vice president, but they're running together. One slightly center right, one slightly center left, and the three criteria they list is these candidates have to be, competent, they have to be patriotic, and they have to be courageous. And we got to find someone from each side that's going to fit these criteria. And what will happen is once they're elected, they agree to govern as a team. All decisions and appointments will be made jointly in the interest of the American public. Only when they cannot reach an agreement or when a decision does not allow for consultation does the president decide independently, and a coin flip determines which candidate runs to the top of the ticket. Now, I wanted to point out, I find that very interesting because that's a nice little fail-safe for stopping someone from choosing someone that greatly benefits their side that may be counterproductive to this unity idea. Because what you're saying with a coin flip is when picking these people, you don't know which one is actually going to be president this first time around or vice president. Now they're going to switch later, but at this first time, you don't know. So that should encourage each group to want to pick the two people that are going to be, most balanced and work together well and closest to the middle. I think that's a nice little fail-safe they put in. Were you wanting to say something about that?
Well, no, I was going to add just the coin flip itself, right? Like, you touched on it. You're never going to know who is actually running for president until that coin flip happens. So,
it keeps things more controlled.
Right. And, depending on it's one or the other, you still get that key factor that if you're agreeing to this, let's say you're one of the nominees, right? If you're agreeing to this, simultaneously with this coin flip, you're saying, I agree to be president and go along with what we're saying, or at the same time, you're also saying, I also agree to be vice president and to assist the other person as best I can. So it's like that dual role where you're not like, I'm running for president, and if I don't win, then I'm nothing. It's that if I, the coin flip, if I lose the coin flip, I'm vice president. And, I think they touch on it later, but the whole 4 years flip back and forth. You're potentially looking at 16 years of the same president, which I think is very interesting.
So what do you think about when it comes to like candidates, the qualities? We said they have to be courageous, they have to be capable or competent, whatever you want to say there, and they have to be patriotic. Like with regards to picking someone, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's very important that those qualities will make a team that's going to be able to stand up to that mob, because there's still going to be far right Trump supporters and far left, I guess you can say Biden supporters at this point, who knows. But it's got to be somebody to break that, and it's got to be someone who's strong enough. And because if you think about it too, if you're agreeing, let's say you're middle left, middle right, and your name gets popped up on this website and it's winning majority, and they call you up and they say, hey, we want you to be part of this Unity 2020 team that runs. right? You are betraying that one partisan party, that you're a part of. And so there's got to be that courageous, I understand that, the cost of this is great, but I think this is what our country needs. And if it costs me my political job, my position in politics, then so be it.
Yeah, we have to get past this fear and this idea that we have that, there's something bad's going to happen if we don't agree or side with either of these supposed majorities on each side, when in reality they're probably not the biggest group of people. You probably have a lot of people that are like right in the center that just don't want to say anything because they're scared. I mean, there's been surveys done recently on this that people are scared to speak their political opinions and their beliefs because of fear of repercussions and things are going to happen to them from these extra loud people on the far ends that would do something to them or get mad at them if they said what they believed in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, think about it. If you have 20% far right and 20% far left, you've got 60% that's middle left, middle right there together. And if we can just bridge that gap, that's where the power comes.
Yeah, you mentioned bridging the gap there. To do that, though, this large group that's supposedly in the middle has to start speaking out against the people that are on the edges and standing up, because I think a big problem is they're silent and they're quiet. And we're not going to get anywhere with, these people trying to hold us back on each side. They're going to continue to, yell and spew the things they've been spewing for the longest time now.
Yeah, well, because typically, the loudest bark is what's heard. There might be one dog that's so loud that it drowns out, 20 others. But that's what you see here. And that's why I think a lot of people think the state of the country is worse than it is, because they're hearing such loud voices from such crazy, sides that I think most of America is still sane. I want to believe that. So,
yeah, I would say for the most part, the people, I would like to think are sane or rational and, want something that unifies us together. I don't think the end caps are the majority. So overall, I do think it's a good idea. Before maybe I say too much about it, what were your thoughts on it, if you liked it and if you were kind of behind this idea or not?
Yeah, so I like this idea. I like the four switch mentality. I think one thing that we'll have to look out for, if for some reason this does get into play, is going to be that last final election, because then you're going to be bringing someone new to the table. You're going to have to find someone new again. That mentality. But that's 16 years if it all goes according to plan. That's a lot that can be done in 16 years.
Yeah, and that's a long time to be unified, because think about the direction we're going now, like how divisive it's getting. And I think that's a big thing as to why they're doing this project now. Like, a lot of people say, why are you doing it? It's too late. This election's already going through. Wait till next time. Here's the thing. Why not give it a shot right now? Because can you imagine if we got those people into office and instead of all this division we see on the news cycles we see every single day, all of a sudden it was about what we're doing together to make things better? I know that might be some kind of crazy dream or idea, but it's nice to think about.
Yeah. Well, think about it. Yeah, think about it. If we get to the point where we finally see our leaders of this country working together, that's going to want to create a bond between people that are watching it. Oh, wow, the president and vice president think differently, but they're working as a team to help me, to help my neighbor, to help the people down the street, the state over, the whole country. That mentality, I think, can go a long ways for the hearts and the minds of the American people, and just getting back to the sense of we are America. We're the United States of America. And, why are we two factions of one country when it should just be one country? So that's the biggest hope for it that I can hope for.
Yeah, it's definitely a good thing to strive for, I would say. I wanted to get into one of my big concerns about it, and what something that is going to need to happen to help move this thing forward, and an area that's got to be addressed. And that is what many would call the super left wing cancel culture, that, you don't agree with them, you're done, kind of anti speak your mind, not looking to talk about things and come up with, good solutions to problems. That group needs to be dealt with. At least they're not get rid of the people, is not what I'm saying, but like their ideology needs to be dealt with, because this idea that you are canceled if you disagree with what they say, and they're pretty much anti-free speech and getting your ideas out there, that is what will hinder this type of thing, because this whole concept is about people who may have some disagreements working together to figure out whose plan will get them to like this goal of betterment for our country. And you can't do that if you have this extremely loud group taking over everything, just shutting you down every time you try to have the conversation to begin with. These conversations have to be able to happen. So I think that is an area that needs to be handled. And I think the way to do that is to get a lot of these people who might be silent in the middle to finally start speaking out against it. Don't cower. And I understand it's asking a lot in some circumstances, because you in the extremes, you could be looking at potentially being fired from your job, or being cast out from a group of friends, different things like that. There's different degrees of how severe it can get, but it's something that's got to happen, otherwise this won't move forward.
Yeah, it's an interesting subject, because you have more and more people who typically lean left, or left-leaning, comics or TV show writers, or people of this nature, that are coming out, and they're saying, oh wait, this has gone too far. Now I'm in trouble. I lean left. I agree with a lot of the policies you are, and yet you're still going to cancel me. Like, this isn't making any sense. So I think when it first started, a lot of people might have been a little bit excited. Okay, they're getting canceled for that. But then when it touches home, and it's, oh wow, now we're getting canceled, for things I said 10 years ago on a TV special. That's crazy. What part of, okay, yeah, we touched there, now it's considered offensive. What's wrong with even a slight, what, I'm sorry that I made that joke, I'll do better. But it's this whole, you lose your career, no one's going to follow you. I mean, look at Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld said he's not going to be performing on college campuses anymore because it's not worth it. Like, he can't make any kind of joke because these college students are just coming out at him and saying, you're racist, you're this, you're that, and we need to cancel Jerry Seinfeld. I mean, it's literally cancel this, cancel that. And you're going to be left with what? Just one idea. Their correct idea.
Yeah, it's quite frightening, and that's why I think it's important that the silent people need to stand up, even if it's not affecting them. If you see someone being unjustly, canceled, and their people are trying to step on their rights to, let them say what they want to say, you got to stand up for each and every person, even the people you disagree with. If it's, especially when it comes to the right to being able to say what you want, you might not agree with a single word of it, but that's the catch, right? You never know when it's going to come for you. So it's better to have that in place beforehand, and, be helping out people that it affects, because someday you're going to want help yourself. So
yeah, and that's the sad part. People just, you just don't know. And I want to bring up another issue that I'm thinking of with this Unity 2020, and I'm curious if they've written about it or said anything about it. But as far as picking cabinet members, are they also planning on splitting that 50-50? Hey, we need 6 positions filled. Okay, 3 need to be middle left, 3 need to be middle right. Where are we pulling those from? Is my concern, I would say.
So yeah, with regards to that, I haven't heard any specifics. My best guess would be that it's got to be someone, or the people have to be someone that both these candidates agree on, because remember, the whole concept is they need to be making decisions together whenever possible in these scenarios. So it would have to be whoever they both want in. And, there's a level of trust that has to be had here, right? With the people putting this project forward and the candidates and who they're going to pick. There's got to be trust at some point and some level. And you got to see if these people are coming from places of good faith. And from what I've seen, with the way they have everything set up here in this, this campaign or this push, that's the feeling I'm getting from this.
And you're referring to Bret Weinstein,
yep.
Correct? Yeah, which they did talk about that. I know they said if for some reason that this doesn't have enough swing to it, that they're gonna pull the plug, and so it doesn't take votes away from either party.
It's fail safe.
So I think that's smart. If for some reason it gets some traction and it doesn't go the full mile, they at least have a contingency plan.
That's the whole point, right? It's to help with the people that are worried about this candidacy taking away votes from one side or the other. And the key to it is, if there's not a big enough push for this project, the plug is pulled, they're done. No part, Biden and Trump didn't lose votes from either side now because the project's gone.
Yeah. Do you have any more specifics on that? As far as like what is a big push equal?
No, I don't know specifically, but again, this is like you have to have some level of faith in the people putting this forward and a little bit of confidence there, because and more is going to be revealed over time, right? They've only done a few. This has just been introduced. The voting for this literally just started a couple days ago. And by the way, if you are listening to this right now, there's only a few days left to propose your candidates because they got to get on the move of getting someone's name on the board for people to support. So with regards to your question about what a big push is, no, I assume they're going to do some sort of polling and information gathering and, evaluation of donations or just feedback from the people on if this looks like it's gained a lot of momentum. I would think they're going to be pretty sure it's going to work before they keep it going. So,
yeah. So on that note, what is your opinion overall?
Yeah. So overall, my thoughts, I tend to like it. Based off my initial feelings about it, I would say it sounds very good. I liked the sound of it. But I'm a person who doesn't think you should make decisions right off, based off only your feelings. So I'm trying to look at it more and more. They're continuing to explain stuff. I know a lot of people aren't behind it until candidates emerge, but that's what they're doing right now. They're getting the candidates set up. So I think the concept is good, and there's good faith behind it. So overall, I tend to support it. And, I do have my concerns. There's the concern of time, how much time there is to pull this off. There's a concern of getting this out there and letting people know about it. I think for me, that's the biggest part, is how are we going to get this in the hands of enough people to make a difference? It's one of those things, just do your part and see what happens, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest challenge overall, is just, I wish this Unity 2020 project had come out in the beginning of the year, giving people more time to get interested, get it going. So that's my biggest fear with this, is that I think it's a great idea. I stand behind it. I'm going to try to, raise as much as I can, in letting people know what it is and what it's all about. But I fear that there's not enough time to get that full push. But who knows? Who knows?
So, all that's really left now, I guess, is the talk about the candidates. And the people who've been following this closely have been floating some names around. And honestly, I think that's one of the biggest issues with the time constraint we were talking about, is a lot of people might not think there's, enough time to research and pick who they want. So some names are just going to get thrown out, and you're going to have to kind of see what you like there again. But I've heard some good ones thrown out. With regards to the one that stood out to me the most, at least with regards to the center-right candidate, would probably be Dan Crenshaw. And I did hear some other good ones. Out of all of them, though, he would probably be my first pick out of the ones listed. On the left, I heard some different ones. A variety of different ones. I know one of the more popular ones on the list was Andrew Yang, and I think maybe Tulsi Gabbard. But with regards to Andrew Yang, I don't know that I know enough about him. The only stuff I saw from him was really with regards to his interaction with the other Democratic candidates during this past, election debates and them facing off against each other. And to me, that whole show was a contest of who can be the most far left, and it seemed like each person was trying to out left the other. And so that made me a little bit uncomfortable because to me, he did not seem moderate. He seemed very extreme like the other people up there. So again, these people I trust that are putting this project together seem to like him, and other people seem to like him there. So I think when it comes to, at least with a lot of these left candidates that were named, since I don't know enough about them yet, I'm going to need to see some interviews, see some, cooperation, see what happens with the talks that come out of this.
Yeah, sure. But hopefully, so for me, anyways, Dan Crenshaw, I think, is a great pick. I would love to see him part of this Unity 2020. Not only is he, I think he has what it takes to be the courageous aspect to fight the mob, quote unquote. I just think he's an overwhelmingly good person. He's going to be honest. He's going to be, upright with the way he walks this thing. As far as the middle left, Andrew Yang, I think, is another great hitter for the ticket. That being said, there are some policies, obviously, that when he was in the debates that he would bring up that I wanted more info on. The freedom dividend, giving $1,000 to each person / family.
Universal basic income.
Yeah, he called it a freedom dividend. I want to know more, like how he's planning on funding that, that sort of thing. But that's going to be.
We need to hear more.
Yeah, and that's what I'm. My fear is there's a lot that I want to know more about this. I want more time, but we don't have that time.
The only thing and this is just me being hesitant, is that I want, like you said, I want to know more about all this, because I would have a fear that, you would have someone that would be a lot further to one side than you may have thought, and then all of a sudden it doesn't go your way. But that's, again, it's not a very big concern once you would start hearing from these candidates and really get a feel for them with regards to this project separated from their parties. So
yeah, so you might think one's great, pick it up, and it's the backside of it's moldy. That's worrisome. But I think out of the candidates that showed up for the Democratic ticket in the debates, I think Andrew Yang is the only one that would actually want to work with this ticket and being paired with a middle right.
Yeah, I hear you. So I guess overall then you'd say you're, excited about this, or at least, positive about this project then, or this initiative.
Yeah. So again, that's my opinion on it. I'm pretty excited about it, honestly. I want more information as quick as it can get out, because it's coming quick, and we're already halfway through August.
Yeah, same here. I think it could work. You just got to find the right people, and people that others are going to get behind, someone that motivates and inspires us to unify together.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I think if this is going to work, again, you got to pick somebody who's not going to cause so much divisiveness. And yeah, so I would not choose Trump. I know some people are like, well, we'll just put Trump and Biden on the same ticket. I think that's a terrible idea. And it's probably more of an internet troll than anything, but could you imagine that ticket? Trump, Biden, Trump 2020? Oh, gosh. No, thank you. So, anyways, we'll be looking out for more information as it comes out, but I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, and to everyone listening as well, I will post links to this information if you're watching on YouTube in the description. If you're just listening, I believe the website is Articles of Unity. I don't know if it's .org or .org.com, whatever it is, but just Google Articles of Unity, you'll find it. You can go there and you can pick your candidates that you like, read more information on this, see if it's something that might be up your alley. If you're on YouTube, like I said, I'll have the links in the description. I'll have the links to, the authors of this project, their YouTube, their Twitter maybe, and also this website where you can get this information. But that pretty much wraps up all that we had to talk about on this subject. I thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Jordan, for talking with me about this, and this will do it for the inaugural episode of the podcast. Again, we thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe if on YouTube. Helps with the algorithm and get the podcast out there. We will see you all in the next one. You all have a good one.